Welcome to the Survivor auction.
Welcome to the Survivor auction.
Today, you'll all be taking part in the Survivor auction.
Are you guys ready to rip into the first ever Survivor New Zealand auction?
You want to say anything, Jeff? Ah, the Survivor auction is dead. But luckily, we have International Survivor keeping it going. And honestly, some of the best auctions are from International Survivor. But that's not today's video. That video will be called The Auction Isn't Broken, Jeff Probst is Just a Bit Silly. Like and subscribe if you're looking forward to that one. Today, we're answering a question some of you may be familiar with. Should you buy the covered item at international auctions? We've got 13 seasons worth of auctions to go over from all around the globe. Starting with Australian Survivor Season 1. Fun fact, there were 13 people at this auction. Only 5 of them got food. That's got to be a record, right? The first covered item is sold to Sam. Is Jonathan going to do him dirty in the inaugural Survivor auction? Nah, it's nachos and margaritas. However, Sam is offered to swap. He rejects it, which is lucky because JLP never shows us what the item is? JLP, please, I have to know. You know what's even worse? This is the only time across these 13 auctions the contestants are offered to swap. So the answer to my other favourite question, should you swap? I guess the answer is, you can't. The second covered item sold to Sue, finally making a big move. It's steak and chips. I'm weary of calling this a good covered item. That steak could be well done for all we know. I'll call it for now, but I'm onto you, Survivor. The third covered item in the auction, and Ivana's in the game, sold to Nick. And he is just overjoyed about it, just listen to him.
I didn't want this.
Really?
Overjoyed. This auction? 3 for 3 in covered items being good. I guess they thought not feeding 8 of them was mean enough. The 2017 auction is up next. It is a fun one, and most of it is because of the first covered item, sold to Luke. It's a seat at this table, meaning he gets every single item in the auction. You give this item to anyone else, and people are pissed about it. But Luke is just that much of a fun guy, you can't hate him. Probably the best covered item, just like, ever? The second covered item is sold to Sarah. She gets a coconut. The second covered item has been bad. This is like some kind of weird upside down world called Australia. It do come with a straw though. Third covered item sold to Jericho, and it's a burger and fries. The item that if I saw it at the auction, I'm spending $500 on, no questions asked. Let me know in the comments what you'd blow your budget on at the Survivor auction. The last covered item is a spa trip. Chocolates, pizzas, and you can bring a friend. Now here's a fun item that US Survivor could do. It could even be a trip to
The sanctuary, where good things happen.
And there's a fun moral dilemma here. Does Michelle or Sarah deserve to go more? Sarah lost at the coconut item, but Michelle lost a rock draw. See Jeff, the auction can still be fun, there can still be drama. Let's look at our updated stats so far. Be wary of the second covered item. Probst clearly in charge here. We then go to Champions vs Contenders. Starting with a bit of a head scratcher. Shane buys the first covered item, and it's a seat at the beggar's table. Now, is the beggar's table a bad place to be? 6 food items were bought, and Shane got to try at least some of all of them. That's better than 6 people who just got absolutely nothing to eat. I know it's intended to be bad, and I'll classify it as such, but Shane made it work. Also, check out this fun math fail.
Bidding will be in $20 increments. Sold to Shane for $250.
250 is not an increment of 20 in any way, shape, or form. The second covered item is sold to Brian. It's a rice. Now, I've been on record saying I like rice, but it's probably a bad covered item. Look at Jonathan's shit-eating grin here. This dude might be my favourite Survivor host. Doesn't even give Brian a fork, god damn. That's 2 bad covered items in a row. That never happened on US Survivor. Australia is evil. Third covered item, sold to Benzie. Let's see if it can beat the burgers and fries from last time. Hey yo, what the heck, it is the burgers and fries from last time. That's it, I'm always buying the third covered item. So far, the third covered item is always safe. The first covered item is sometimes bad. And the second one is risky business. Australian Survivor Allstars takes that weird Thailand pre-merge auction and makes it fun by having individual items, but a tribal pool of money. There's only one covered item, sold to John. It's a pizza, mamma mia. Yeah, I'm happy to move on from this season, to be honest. What's up next? Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water? Fuck. Mark buys the first covered item. He has a 75% chance of it being good. And it is. Steak and chips. They're not very unique with these covered items, are they? Second covered item, sold to Sam. It's Vegemite on toast. Like it's food. It's better than nothing. But it's not steak. It's not burgers. It's not pizza. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna anger some people. This is a bad covered item, I'm sorry. And now the third covered item? It's tea? Is this good or not? At the very least, it's got to be a little disappointing. If I spent $500 on a mid-English breakfast, there. I'll classify it as good for now because it did come with a 3-person safety without power, but it's close. Now we have heroes versus villains, bringing back the tribal auction. There are only 2 covered items to go over. The first is a massive block of chocolate. It looks suspiciously like Cadbury, so I might have to call it a bad covered item, but those engravings on the chocolate don't match up with any Cadbury I've seen, so I'll give it a pass for now. The second covered item has been risky business so far. King George takes the risk. It pays off, because King George is one of the luckiest Survivor contestants of all time. He wins.
Afternoon of food, fun, and surprises!
And also just like $60,000? What the fuck? Our last Australian Survivor auction comes from the most recent season, Titans vs Rebels. If you aren't watching this season, you're missing out. Raymond is actually just my favourite Survivor contestant of all time. Timestamp here if you want to skip to Survivor South Africa. The first covered item?
100.
Thank you, Raymond. Sold to Eileen, and it's fried chicken. Winner, winner. Chicken dinner. The second covered item?
100.
Thank you, Raymond. Sold to Carolyn. The expected outcome of the second covered item falls between a coconut with a pretty dope straw and $60,000. So let's see what we get here. A brownie. You know, that's pretty good. The third covered item? Sold to Ferris. It is a toothbrush and mint. This is a good thing to have. But man, Ferris was hungry. Every third covered item has been good so far, and Raymond probably would have loved it if he'd been able to win it for $100. I'm classifying this as a good covered item. It's simply a skill issue from Ferris. Here's the total stats for Australian Survivor if you also think it's reductive to put all of the international versions together, but we will do a big roundup at the end. Let's talk about Survivor South Africa. This auction is almost entirely composed of covered items. The first covered item is an advantage in the game. See how she isn't bitching about it, Nick? The second covered item is Cook Sisters and coffee. For those unaware, Cook Sisters are apparently a syrupy donut. I'm keen to try them sometime. Maybe that's the next Is This Covered Item Good video. I don't really like coffee though. The third covered item is a bowl of chocolate milkshake. I get that sharing is caring, but I could smash that entire thing if I were hungry enough. Is there any time where sharing is a bad idea on Survivor? John tried not to in Samoa and look where that got him. The final covered item was sold to Allison. She won. A car. Now is this a bad covered item? If you're aware of the car curse, let me know if you'd like to see a video analysing its effect on International Survivor sometime. For now, I'll say it's a good covered item. Survivor South Africa Philippines has even more covered items than before. The first was sold to Tom, and it's donuts, can't complain there. Second covered item sold to Werner, it's a bowl of rice. Hang on a second, I've seen this before. At least Nico gave him a fork. Brian had to use.
Your built-in spoon.
The third covered item is sold to Annalise. It's a gourmet sandwich as they describe it. I'm gonna be honest, that's just a sandwich, nothing gourmet going on here. It's still a good covered item, I just refuse to call it gourmet. The fourth covered item, sold to Katinka, is an advantage in the game. Again, no throwing a hissy fit over it. Come on Nick, be grateful. Last up we have Werner buying a big bowl of peanut butter. He did have to share it, but it's still good. So far only one covered item has been bad in Survivor South Africa, and it's the second one. International Survivor cares not for tradition. The first covered item of Survivor South Africa Immunity Island is sold to Nicole, and it's a beggar's plate, just like Shane from Australian Survivor. Man, forget my video about US stealing from Australia. Let's talk about South Africa stealing from Australia sometime. This is Shane's table turned up to 11, because for some reason, no one wanted a bath and some champagne, so Nico just gives it to Nicole. This is a good covered item. The second covered item sold to Tyson is fish and chips. As a Kiwi, this is the best covered item. Fight me. Tyson swoops in again for the third covered item, an advantage in the game. Nick, stop whinging. Why am I like this? I really like Nick. Fourth covered item is sold to Vorda, which is vetkoek and mince, vetkoek being a type of fried bread. She gives this up graciously for the tribe to get rice. So Nicole gets it instead? That's not how begging works. Is it? Am I wrong on this? Now the fifth covered item is bought by Nicole? Unlike Australian Survivor, Nicole didn't actually buy herself out of the auction? She just was allowed to bid? What's the point of the beggar's plate then? It's the ability to send someone to Immunity Island. That's another good covered item. Looking at the stats and man, Survivor South Africa hates making bad covered items. Which to me kinda defeats the purpose of the covered items. Please comment below, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but if you aren't gonna have bad covered items, there's no point in having them at all. Next up we have UK Survivor, a series I've been super excited to talk about. UK Survivor Season 1 all the way back in 2001 had no covered items. Shit. Okay, that's fine. Survivor UK came back in 2023, and with it came another auction. This one had no covered items. What the fuck? And they're from the UK. You could have just served British food. No one would have known if it was a good covered item or not. What a waste. Lastly, we go to Survivor New Zealand Thailand. God, please bring back Survivor New Zealand. I really want to compete and get voted out 5th. Or please subscribe so I can go on Celebrity Treasure Island and compare it to Survivor the entire time. Our first covered item is sold to Lisa. It's a big sandwich. Not a gourmet sandwich, mind you. Just a big one. She is offered to swap, does it, and dodges a bowl of rice. Interestingly, this is the second time Elisa has won a big sandwich at a Survivor auction after it was a covered item. What are the odds? Next up, Dave won an advantage in the game. He hates her more than Nick, damn, just listen to him.
You don't want an advantage in the game?
At the moment, I want food.
But it's still a good covered item, no matter how hungry you are. Finally, we have Tess purchasing a massive cake to share. I did think a lot of Survivor New Zealand was trying a bit too hard to replicate US Survivor instead of doing its own thing, and this may be a microcosm of that. But again, it's a good covered item. We could look at the stats, but there's only one auction, and all of the covered items were good, so I guess Kiwis are just kind. Bring back Survivor New Zealand TV and said, please. It feels slightly reductive to look at all of these auctions together because they are from different versions of the show. But it's fun, so let's do it. There have been 36 covered items over these 13 seasons of Survivor. 11 if you exclude the UK, but I think it's funnier to include it. Of those, 31 have been good and 5 have been bad. That's an 86.1% chance to get a good covered item. Quite a bit higher than US Survivor's 73.9%. Of the 11 first covered items, 10 have been good and 1 bad. And really, that's only as bad as you are at begging for food. That's a 90.9% chance of getting a good thing, compared to US Survivor's 70.5. The second covered item? Almost always good in the US, but only 6 out of 10 have been good internationally. That's a 60% chance to get a good second covered item, compared to US's 84.6. These odds do change if you're Australian. It's actually 50-50 over there, and 1 out of 3 to be bad in South Africa. Man, Australians are weird. Third, 4th, and 5th all have a 100% chance of being good. If you ever find yourself in an international Survivor auction, just let it rip, you've got nothing to lose. I'm currently working on finding even more versions of Survivor to cover. If you have any fun international auction stories, let me know in the comments below. I hear Survivor Quebec had a foot massage? I've been Henry Hickman Survivor, and I'll see you at the bidding war.